All right, everybody, now I want to move on to my favorite part of the show, and everyone knows what that is. It's gun talk. And today I want to address a question that came up in my live chat the other night. A viewer asked, how do you make the mags drop free in a CZ75b? Well, I was kind of taken aback by that question because I'm like, don't the mags drop free in a CZ75b? Isn't that already the case? Because the way they asked the question, it was like, they don't drop free in CZ75bs. And I'm like, I always thought they did. So I actually had to go do a little research there on the spot and figure out whether I could answer this question or not. So I went over and got my CZ75b off the wall. This is an Omega version. And I checked the hypothesis. Am I right? Do they fall free? Well, let's see here. Let's push the button and see if the magazine falls free. Yep, it falls free. No, nothing stopping it there at all. So I thought, well, maybe something's crazy with his gun. Maybe something's wrong with his gun. So I thought, well, I've got another CZ75b. Let me try that one too to see if that one falls free. So I went and got my older CZ75b, the stainless model, off the wall. And before anyone asks, yes, these are Beskar grips. I got them from a guy on Facebook. I don't remember his information right now. If I remember it, I will put it in the description of this video. If I remember correctly, he and I didn't get along very well because I don't like his politics, but I really do like his product. So if I do remember the information, I will put it in the description here. With that being said, I wanted to check, see if this one ejected properly, if it falls free. Because if it does, well, then the problem is, like I said, probably with his gun. So I pushed the button on this one and it does not fall free. This one actually meets a lot of resistance. It takes some effort to pull it out and push it back in. It's not scrapey or nasty or anything. It's just very snug. So I was like, maybe there's just some difference in design between the old ones and the new ones. Maybe the old ones were designed to not fall free, but that didn't make any sense to me. Basically, I was just going through rationalizing anything I could rationalize to not have to take the grips off the gun and see what the problem was. But I had determined that now there is a problem possibly. So I wanted to make sure it wasn't the magazines first. So I switched out the magazines to the different guns. I took the magazine out of the one that did fall free, put it in the gun that did not fall free, and doesn't fall free either. And when I put the magazine from this gun in the one that did fall free, it fell free. So it's obviously this gun, and that's not a magazine issue. Whenever I have a problem that involves a magazine, I always make sure it's not the magazine first. And in this case, it's not the magazine. And because of that, I actually had to get off my lazy ass and get the screwdriver and get the grip off. And if you look in here, there's a little leaf spring right here. And that holds the magazine in place. That puts tension on the magazine. That's pretty much the only thing this piece does that I can figure out is hold the magazine. Now, an okay diesel mechanic, when I was messing around on the video, was saying, you got to adjust the spring in the grip. And I was like, what the fuck's he talking about, spring in the grip? Because I always never think of leaf springs as actual springs. And remember, he's just an okay diesel mechanic. He's not like a great diesel mechanic, so I always take everything he says with a grain of salt. But he said, you got to adjust that spring. So after he finally said it puts pressure on the spine, I was like, now I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that little leaf spring in there. And I'm like, yeah, that could probably be the problem. So I took this apart and I looked at it. And there's the little leaf spring. It connects down here at the bottom. It connects with a pin up here at the top. And it lays flat against the back of the gun here. But it does put some pressure on the magazine as it goes in. We'll slide a magazine in here and you will see it is right up against it. They are touching. It is putting pressure on the magazine. That's what keeps it, in place and keeps it solid, kind of just guides it in place. It doesn't hold it in because when you release it, it falls free, but it gives it a guide. It really makes it go in smoothly and without a lot of scratching or friction or anything else because there's not a lot of built into the back of this grip frame. It's pretty open, so they had to put that plate there to keep the magazine from sliding up and scraping up against all these sharp points and the spring, etc. So it is there to make the magazine more secure, not hold it in place, just kind of guide it into place. So that could be a problem if it was, put in wrong or was defective, etc. So I thought, well, let's take apart the other one, the one that doesn't eject completely, and see what it looks like inside. And as soon as the grip came off, I saw the problem. As you can see here, this spring does not sit flush back against this. It bows out quite a bit. Now, of course, since my mind always goes to the worst place possible when I'm going to have to fix something, I thought I'm going to have to take that spring out of there. I'm going to have to shorten it somehow. I thought, well, I'll take the pin out the top. I'll cut a little off the top, rebend it around the spring. It'll be shorter. It'll sit flush. Everything will be fixed. But before I did that, luckily, I started looking saying, I've had this gun apart before. Did I make sure I got it seated properly when I put it back? And maybe the person who's having the problem with their gun, maybe they've taken it apart before, and maybe they didn't get this seated properly when they put it back. So I started messing around with it. And to my chagrin, it popped out. It shouldn't be able to do that. It should not be able to pop out. Don't know if you can see there or not, but there's a little hook on the bottom of it. That's supposed to hook under the pin right there. And apparently, this is not hooking under the pin. It's sitting on top of the pin, which is making it not fit properly. It's making it bow out some. And that's what's keeping the magazine from falling freely. So what I'm going to have to do is remove this pin, take the pressure off of the hammer spring here, let that all come out, put this back where it goes, and then put the pin back in and see if we still have the problem. So let's do that really quick here. And I don't know if I can show you that or not because of YouTube's new rules, but that's what I'm going to do. Now remember, this is under pressure when you take this out of here, so be careful. And as you can see here, just removing this has allowed the spring to go down a little further and allow it to set back completely. So let's go ahead, just slide this back into place, make sure the hook is under the pin, and put the pin back in the gun. All right, I got the pin in, and as you can see, the little spring there, the little guide is sitting flush. So now let's just put the grips back on it and see if the magazine falls free. All right, moment of truth. Let's see if it pops free. Yeah, it does much better. No resistance now at all. Goes in and out very easily. If I was to hold this straight up and down, it would come out all the way to my hand with no problem. So the magazine is now falling freely. So it appears that was the problem. And sometimes if you take your guns apart, you put them back together, they might go back together, but it might not be right. Might still work, just might be a little problem like that. So if you have a problem like that, instead of sending it back to the manufacturer, just see if anybody else has the same experience you have and if they figured out what might be going on, or take it apart again, check it out yourself. Because usually it's a minor fix and an easy fix. I mean, literally taking that pin out was like 2 minutes tops to take it out, put it back in, and diagnosing the problem was so simple because I had 2 guns. But I think even if I didn't have 2 guns, if I would have took that apart and saw that spring there bowed out like that, I would have known that's the problem. So sometimes all you gotta do, take it apart again, take a look, and you'll see what you did wrong the first time when you took it apart and put it back together, and you'll have it fixed pretty easily without having to send it back to anyone or admitting you made a mistake when you took it apart and put it back together. But like I say, instead of sending guns back or panicking over stuff like that, it's usually something small. So get on the internet, come on a live chat like mine and say, hey, I'm having this problem, because even if I haven't even noticed I have the problem, I might have it, like in this case. And once I find it, I'm going to find a way to fix it. And hopefully my fix works for you too.